If you've been doing HIIT workouts, intense cardio, or constantly pushing yourself harder and harder, trying to lose belly fat, and your waist still isn't changing, the problem might not be your discipline. In fact, it might actually be the workouts themselves. Now, for a lot of women, especially women who are already active, high intensity workouts can make it harder for the body to lean out rather than easier. Welcome to the Model Body Reset, a series where we break down how to build a lean, feminine body without extreme workout, restriction, or burning yourself out in the process. I'm Rivy. I'm a model in New York, and over the years, I've worked with trainers across the fashion industry and experimented with almost every type of workout you can imagine: weightlifting, HIIT, long cardio sessions, boot camp, and everything in between. For a long time, I couldn't understand why my body wasn't responding the way I wanted it to. My goal was very specific. I wanted a smaller waist, lean legs, and that effortless model off duty type of physique. But the training advice I kept receiving was the same advice that was given to everyone else. And it simply wasn't working for the body I was trying to create. I remember asking so many different trainers for help, and most of them were men. Every time I explained exactly what I wanted, a smaller waist, lean legs, and a more elongated feminine silhouette, I kept getting the same response. They would put me on these intense hit circuits with heavy dumbbells and tell me to lift heavier, push harder, and drink as much protein shakes as possible. I followed their advice because they were the experts, and I felt like I had to trust them, even though something in my body kept telling me it didn't feel right. But the more I followed those programs, the worse things actually got. My body felt constantly inflamed, my digestion got worse, and my waist was actually becoming wider instead of smaller. They would say things, you'll gain 10 pounds of muscle first and then lean out later. And I remember feeling incredibly confused because that wasn't the body I wanted. I didn't want to gain 10 pounds first. I wanted a leaner, softer, more feminine physique. Mentally, it became exhausting and honestly very invalidating because it felt like I had to ignore my own intuition and my own body simply because someone else was considered the expert. Have you been there before? I'm sure you can relate to that. But they weren't living in my body and they also weren't women. So, how could they fully understand what a woman's body actually needs? And I'm not saying that there aren't trainers who don't get women good results. Like a lot of the VS model trainers are men. You want to be clear on that. But eventually I realized something really important. I wasn't failing. I wasn't lazy. And it wasn't that the body I want wasn't meant for me or that I couldn't achieve it. It was just, I was simply following a strategy that was never designed for the result I wanted, nor for the female physique, the female body. A lot of fitness programs today are built around one goal: intensity and calorie burn. Historically, most of those systems were created by men and designed around the male physiology. But creating a lean, feminine physique is not just about burning the most calories possible. In fact, it has very little to do with that. When workouts are extremely intense, especially HIIT workouts, they spike stress hormones like cortisol. When cortisol stays elevated, the body tends to hold on to water and inflammation, particularly around the midsection. So instead of leaning out, many women start feeling puffy, bloated, sluggish, or like their waist simply isn't changing, even though they're working incredibly hard. This is especially common for women who are already busy, already stressed, already pushing themselves in other areas of their life, already dominantly in their masculine energy. Not saying masculine energy is wrong at all, or for women to have masculine energy, but if you're dominantly there, that's a very huge indication that you're under a lot of stress. When the body is constantly in fight or flight mode, adding more stress on top of it, it really produces the results we want. What changed everything for me was realizing that my body didn't need more punishment or more intensity. It needed to feel supported, it needed to feel safe, and it needed a completely different strategy. Instead of focusing on intensity, I started focusing on three things. The first was low impact sculpting workouts that shape the body without overstressing it. These workouts focus on slow, controlled movement, posture, deep breathing, and muscle engagement rather than explosive intensity. The second was supporting my digestion and metabolism through food. I increased my protein to almost my goal weight in grams. Sometimes it's hard to get as much protein as I want, which is maybe like 130. That's a lot for me because I still like to eat complex carbs, but I try to get at least 100 grams of protein per day. I increase my fiber intake, focused on warm, nourishing foods, proper hydration that's based on minerals and nutrient density. I also started thinking about food differently. Instead of asking myself, how many calories does this have? Even though that makes a difference and is important, I started asking, what is this food actually giving to my body? Food is really an energy exchange. So when you look at something like a steak, for example, you're getting protein, iron, minerals, and nutrients that actually support your body. Compare that to something like a sugary cake, which might give you pleasure for a moment in the mouth, in your taste bud, but very little nourishment. So when digestion is working properly, the body can actually process food efficiently instead of holding on to excess inflammation. The third piece was regulating my nervous system. That meant more deep breathing, being more present, drinking warm teas, ginger teas with apple cider vinegar or turmeric tea, anything that was anti inflammatory, and creating routines that made my body feel calm and supported. The female body thrives when it feels warm, safe, cozy, and regulated rather than constantly pushed into fight or flight mode. And this is especially true for my body. When those three things come together, movement, nourishment, and nervous system support, my body changed in a way that felt almost effortless compared to what I had been doing before. My waist leaned out to 24 inches, my digestion stabilized for the first time in years, and my body finally felt like it was working with me instead of against me. I remember the moment I realized, wow, I actually created the body I had always wanted, and it was easier than I expected. I got to eat more food, I enjoyed my workouts more, I rested more, and I connected with my body in a completely different way. Instead of constantly restricting and pushing harder, I started receiving more from my body. That restrictive mentality I used to have was actually the thing holding me back. That shift is what eventually led me to create what I now call the Row Model Body Method, which is a framework designed specifically for women who want a lean, feminine physique without extreme dieting or punishing workouts. These workouts are based on the method that have worked for me, that have worked for other models that work in the industry. Now, because the truth is, most women don't need to do more. We actually need to do less, but do it strategically. We simply need to approach our bodies differently. If this resonates with you, make sure you subscribe because in the next episode, we're going to talk about something that confuses a lot of women when it comes to their waist, which is the difference between bloating and belly fat. Once you understand the difference, it completely changes the way you approach both workout and food as well. If you've ever noticed your stomach looking flat in the morning but completely different by the evening, that episode is going to help make a lot of things click for you. And if you want to go deeper into this approach, you can also download my free guide called 5 Chocolate Loving Habits to Shrink Your Waist, where I explain more about how to support your body while still enjoying the foods you love. I love chocolate. I love dessert. As you can see here, like these are some of the desserts I make, and I didn't want to create a body I had to give that up for, and create a life I had to give that up for. So, yeah, you can have that too. See you in the next episode.